welcome back to the Fox Robbins Business Show. Thanks for coming back. We've got an excellent program coming up. We're actually going to do two episodes back to back, and we'll get to that in a minute. This is the Fox Robbins Business Show, and this show is all about developing your best business ideas. And today we have a guest to help us out, Marc Goldberg, and we'll introduce him. But before we do that, I have to say I'm the co-host, but the other co-host, and get this, is the delicious, efficacious, and efflorescent Coach Robbins.
I'm delicious. Billy, how are you?
Coach, we got a biggie today. We're going to talk.
This is great.
About business model canvas.
Yep.
It's called. You say, what is that? It's business planning, but don't go to sleep. Don't turn off the TV. Hang on, because this is going to be very interesting. Whether you're thinking about starting a business or in the act of starting one, or you've already started a business, even if you started a business, but need help, encouragement, new direction, whatever the case might be, a business model canvas is an outstanding tool. I'd say in a summary, this is a business plan on one page, in effect, and it's a great way to focus attention and get to the meat and cover all the essential points that would be in a business plan and help you. So pay attention. Marc, as I said, we have Marc Goldberg here today. Marc is with SCORE. SCORE, Marc, what's that?
Well, SCORE, Bill, is the nonprofit arm of the Small Business Administration. We've been around for 53 years. We have almost 11,000 mentors across the country in 350 chapters. Here on Cape Cod and the islands, we have 53 mentors who are volunteers that help three constituent groups on Cape Cod and the islands. Mm-hmm. The first group are people who have an interest in going into business. They have an idea, or they're interested in buying a business, or they may be a son or daughter that is in the process of succeeding in a family business. That's one group. A second group are people in business, and they come to us because they have a specific issue they want to address. They come to us if they are trying to grow their business and don't quite know how to grow their business or how to finance the growth of their business. Or sometimes they come to us because they're ready to exit the business and they need help in developing a plan to exit the business. And the third group are nonprofits. And as you know, nonprofits are businesses just with a different tax status. So we help instill business principles into nonprofits by strategic planning facilitation, by executive director mentoring one-on-one, or by board development. So what we provide is free and confidential mentoring throughout the Cape.
Right. But if any of you who are watching this show, if you never heard of, you've heard the name or you haven't, go to the internet.
SCORE.org.
SCORE.org. That's it, and feast your eyes on a wealth, a bounty of information and support.
Great.
Right? And today we're presenting the business planning using what is called the business model canvas that Marc is going to tell us all about. But first, Marc, tell us, what's this? You have a slide here that says, what type of plans do you use in your business? What's your intention here?
Well, there are basically four different types of plans that a business needs. Winston Churchill said many years ago that if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And most businesses think of a business plan as the guide. But behind the business plan, there are other plans that any ongoing business needs, and especially a launch. And that is a strategic plan, and that is, where are you going? How are you going to get there? What are the strategic issues facing your business, and how are you going to address those issues? The third is the marketing plan. And the biggest single issue that most small businesses face is awareness. How are you going to get positioned in the mind of buyers so they see no suitable substitute? And the marketing plan addresses that. Where are your customers? What do they read? Where do they get their information? How are you going to reach them so when they have that need, your name pops up on their screen and they say, I'm going to reach out to this company. And the last one's the financial plan. And the financial plan really is the interpretation of all of these plans in economic terms. Where are you going to get your revenue? What kind of expenses is your business going to incur? And at the end of the day, how much profit are you going to make? And it's the projections. It's looking at the future. And it's asking yourself, how many sales do we expect to make? What will our costs be in generating those sales? What will our costs be in executing those sales? And the most important of all the financial plans is cash. The majority of small businesses go out of business because they run out of cash. And having run my own small business for almost 30 years, I can tell you there were days when I lost focus. I went off and did what a client asked me to, and cash became an issue. So
We're worried about the Friday payroll. Been there.
right,
Yeah.
and making sure you have enough cash to pay your suppliers, make sure you have enough cash to pay your employees, make sure that you have enough to stay afloat. So those are the basic plans that any business needs.
Okay.
And I think the biggest misunderstanding people have is they don't understand the difference between profit and cash.
Right.
They're not the same.
Right. I have to tell you, as a business owner, I did a profit and loss statement once a quarter. Every morning, I knew what my cash position was.
Every single morning,
Every
I
morning.
knew what all 5 of my stores, their cash position, every morning.
Every morning, I looked at what was in the bank, what receivables were owed to us,
Yep.
the aging of those
Aging,
receivables,
right.
and what I owed.
Right. And when I had to pay it.
Right.
When's the big
When
thing?
you had to pay it.
Match those up. Well, the types, these plans that you're talking about, we have one called the business model canvas,
Right.
which is going to be the focus of what you talked to
Right.
us about today. But here you mentioned, you show the business model canvas as it lines up with a marketing plan, financial plan, a business plan.
Right.
Is that correct?
Right.
Okay. The model canvas, it says, you're saying here, it identifies problems and issues for validation of the business concept.
And that is the most important word.
You bet.
And that's what the business model canvas helps with most. And that is validating the concepts. I come up with a great idea. I think it's a great idea. Is there a customer out there? Is there somebody who has a need that I'm fulfilling? And will they pay for it? And as we talk through this session and the succeeding session, you'll see that the business model canvas focuses on validation.
Right.
And so when you think in terms of the marketing plan, who is your market? How are you going to reach that market? And you look at your financial plan. Can you generate enough revenue to cover your expenses and generate a profit? And your business plan really ties together your marketing and your financial plans to say, this is the direction we're going, and what kind of strategies and tactics do we need to get there?
Your next slide says, what is a model? What do you mean by what is a model?
Well, I'll give you a good example. My wife and I ran our own small business. Our model was a virtual business. She and I and a third party really generated all the sales, and we generated sales. We also executed the work, but we had people behind the scenes that were all over the country that went out in the field and did the research, that did the analysis, did the report writing, and did the presentations to customers with the results of the research that we did. That's a model. The person that bought our business is a solopreneur. And consequently, the model has shifted from a majority of measurement back to a majority of training. So she has a training model versus a measurement-heavy model. So what the business model does is it defines the rationale behind how you're organized and how you go forward.
Okay. And the business model concept again, thinking through and validate the moving parts of your idea and so forth. What is your idea here?
Well, when you think in terms of starting a business or even expanding a business, and I'll give you an example. We had a client come into us who had a business, and she wanted to expand the business. So we used the business model canvas to help her think through all the parts that it takes to assess whether it was valid or not for her to expand that business into this segment. For example, I'm a landscaper. I want to expand my business into hardscaping. Okay, are they the same customers? Yes. Do I market the same? Yes. Do I reach out to them the same? Yes. Do I use the same channels? Yes. It's validated that I can actually execute that addition to my business. Okay? But if in my business, which was a training and measurement business, somebody came to me and said, we want you to help staff our exhibits. Are they the same customers? Yes. Same channels? Yes. What happened to the focus of my business? Gets dissipated. It wasn't validated. We said, nope, that's not for us. So what the business model canvas does is it helps us to identify the issues, identify the problems that you're going to face, identifies the value proposition that you're going to offer, and determine whether it has validity or not. And if it does, you go forward. If not, you back away.
And also identifies differentiation. That's a key.
Absolutely. When you think in terms of businesses, and think about the Cape. How many businesses are on the Cape that sell art? Okay, I was listening on the way over to NPR talking about how many billions of dollars there is in the Northeast alone in just art businesses. What differentiates one shop from another? What differentiates you from somebody else so that when somebody says, I'm interested in a gift that's Cape oriented, I instantly think of you. Your differentiation is critical. And part of the business model canvas is flushing out the differentiation to assure that you can be positioned in the mind of a buyer so they see no suitable substitute.
Right.
That's differentiation, right?
And if you don't Michael Porter at Harvard said there's only two ways you make money in business at its root. You're either cheaper or different.
Right.
And if you're going to be cheaper, you better be Walmart. You better have purchasing power that small businesses don't have. So if you're a Me Too business and they can go to several of them, how are you going to make money?
Right.
Above average returns we talk about. You need a unique selling proposition, USP. You have to stand apart from the competition and deliver some value that a customer says, I can only get it from this company, and that's where I give my dollars to.
That's right. We had 5 competitors in our business. And when people would say, well, why should I buy from you?
There you go.
What's your differentiation?
Right.
We'd say, well, competitor number 1 is sales oriented. This is a marketing issue. Competitor number 2 is humor oriented. He makes you laugh, but at the end of the session, you say, what did I get?
Yeah.
We were marketing oriented. We focused on addressing the marketing issues of your organization.
Right.
And that was a differentiator.
Yep.
So what we want to think about is validating. And you validate it before you spend a lot of time and money.
Especially money.
You know, the average business plan in time elapsed takes $10,000 of effort. If you're doing it right. If you're going for financing at a bank, you're going to spend hours.
Many.
We had a man come to us with a business plan that was 49 pages long. And then we got through the whole business plan and looked at the last page, and he totally overestimated the size of the market on the Cape and the islands. He spent months doing this.
We could have done it in a couple of days.
On the
using
business model canvas, that's
validation,
what it does.
That's the key
validation,
word.
and it saves you time and money.
Yep.
Also, the other issue is that say you find that your value proposition that you set forth, and we'll talk about that, is not validated. You can line it out and write a new value proposition, go out and try that.
Pivot.
Right.
And I'll give you an example. There's a nonprofit here on the Cape who came in and her value proposition was beautiful. I said, sounds great. Go out and find me somebody that will say, I'll give you an opportunity.
Right.
She came back and after 2 months and couldn't find one. I said, okay, now take that and let's change that value proposition and offer this as a corporate training. She's training all over the Cape now.
No, she found
Because
a niche.
she lined it out and started over. So what it does is it requires lots of thinking and less writing.
Right.
And you're raising a question here. What's the most difficult part of developing and executing a business plan? What do you see?
Well, we ask people all the time, you know, I don't know, Cliff I'm sure sees this all the time when he sees a client come in, he says, you know, what you need is a business plan. What happens to their eyes? They roll back into their head. They
Right.
glaze over and they stop listening.
Right.
Because to them, that's 39 pages of writing.
Right.
So when we ask people, why aren't you planning? Oh, it takes too much time. I have to keep my business going. Or nobody takes it really seriously. Now, I worked for Westinghouse in the late 70s, and my job as the marketing manager of the gas turbine division was write the business plan for the year, and on top of the marketing plan. And I can tell you, I spent from July to October until it was reviewed and approved. And by December, it was approved, and I started over again in
Start
July.
again, right.
And
Start
so
it
my
all
question
over
is,
again.
who read it? And people don't use it regularly. A business plan only has value if it's reviewed on a regular basis, and it's a living document. That,
living, breathing document, right?
right, that you're willing to change.
Absolutely.
You know, and the thing we know most about right now is that, you know, we have that our environment is such that everything is changing constantly. And if you
Fast.
don't keep on top of it, even with a small business, you're going to miss the opportunity.
Yep.
And so, you know,
Or
it's
get caught
an
in a
issue,
wake
right?
and sink.
You got a great list here on this slide, Mark. Why the business model canvas is good for you? Why is it good for you?
Well, you find your problems early, and you don't go
quickly,
through the process, and it's manageable. If you give somebody one page, they're gonna work on it, and then you break it down. And you say, okay, the first three things you look at, do them. Then let's talk about it, and then we'll talk about the next three.
Yeah, you can't do 20 things all at once.
That's right.
Pick
So-
the 3 that you think are the most important.
Right, and it's simpler, so people use it as a foundation to move forward.
But it is a discipline, so to speak. Don't get scared. Not you. I mean, those who are watching the show, don't get scared when you use the word discipline. But it's a way to help you make sure you cover all the bases
Right.
and ask all the right questions.
It's an approach.
And if you just try to do that out of your head without the aid of the business model canvas, I mean, you're not going to get there.
Right.
You need this is an assist tool
Right.
to get a better result.
Planning needs to be formalized.
Absolutely.
It needs to be recorded, and it needs to be in a place that you can review it.
This business model canvas, you're identifying here that it was created by a fellow named Alexander Osserwaller, strategizer.com.
Right.
Remember that location on the internet, strategizer.com. You're gonna be needing that. Make a note. And this guy created that. Let's see, strategic management lean startup. It's a template. New or startup businesses, right?
Right. It was actually designed for high-tech firms because they find a situation in their rapidly changing environment.
It does it ever.
Yeah, and so it was really designed for them to begin with. And then it moved to lean startup, which is actually another topic to talk about. But what it does is it helps somebody visualize how they're going to take this concept that they have, whether it be for business expansion or business development or startup, forward. And it's all about thinking through the process.
And this is what this is what our
Right.
business model canvas looks like. Those of you watching the show, you can't. We're gonna go through this in detail, but that's what it looks like. What's when you put it on the table in front of you, that's what she looks like.
Right, and as Bill said, you can go to strategizer.com. You can download this template.
Yep.
If you could go back one. And the way this is designed, there are 9 blocks. And it's not organized so that you do the first block on the right or the first block on the left. You actually start with the value proposition in the middle, and we're going to go through each block.
Right.
But the right-hand side are the internal side, and the left-hand side are
External.
the external side.
Right. When I first saw the business model canvas, probably 10 years ago, I said, this is all jumbled up. What the heck is this? So I rearranged it I created, and then I said, no, they had it right.
Right.
That's internal, this is external. You don't start in the upper left, you start in the center.
Right.
And work your way around.
Yeah, when we have somebody using it, we give them instructions and we number
I do
the
too.
blocks so
Yeah.
that they do value
1,
proposition first.
2,
Right.
yeah, I do the same thing, but I move them around, and I said, no, leave it the way it is.
Right.
Just put the block numbers in there.
Right.
So what you just said, value proposition, is this we're now gonna jump into making use of the form, step by step.
Right.
And this is your first slide on that. What value do we deliver, and what customer problems, so forth. Can you cover that for us? This is you're talking to me. You're introducing the canvas to me, and I'm going to start using it. What are you going to say to me?
Well, the very first thing you've got to think about is, what are you offering your customers? What is the offer you're delivering? And you need to address this because they need to understand who you are, what you do, and what your offer is for them to even give you any consideration. And most people don't think in terms of how people think when they buy. They start with unawareness and go to awareness, and from awareness to understanding, and understanding to believability, and believability to purchase, and then repurchase and recommend. So the value proposition is very, very critical in starting the whole process of understanding how you're going to go forward by describing what problem are you solving? What is it what need are you fulfilling? And how are you satisfying a customer so that they will consider whether they will even consider your offer, and will they pay anything for it? So when you think in terms of your value proposition, for example, when I was in business, it was we deliver performance improvement through training and measurement. That was our value proposition.
Absolutely.
So what you want to do is make it very clear and very succinct so that people understand, what are you offering?
And that would, by the way, that would say, I was going to mention that the SBA, Small Business Administration, has said not for a year or two, but for decades, that the mortality rate for startup businesses is horrible. That businesses that start from scratch, that 70 or 80% of those fail over the first 5-year period. Half of those drop out of the race in the very first year.
Right.
That is a horrible mortality rate, unnecessary, and starting with this value proposition.
Right.
Because I'm going to get you to step outside of yourself. Stop favoring yourself and having so much fun with your own idea. Step into somebody else's shoes and say, what would that person see as the value of what you're performing?
And I think you're absolutely right, Bill. I mean, when you think of most people, they come up with an idea and they fall in love with the idea. And I did myself. And you think that everybody needs it.
Everybody's going to agree.
And everybody's going to buy it.
Yeah.
And you take your life savings, you take your family savings, and you plunk it into something without validating. And that's where this comes about, where you can go out into the community, you can go out to your markets, and you can ask them. And that's one of the things that small businesses don't do as well. They don't do the research.
Right.
They don't go out and ask the question, I'm thinking about opening a business here in this community. As we all know, especially on the Cape, people buy within their communities, within their villages, within their towns. So would you be interested in what I'm offering?
In this location.
In this location? Right. Am I fulfilling a need?
Right. Want,
now,
need, desire.
Yeah. So one of the things that we did was we took a product that everybody knows, Waze. It's an app for finding locations. It's a GPS app.
Yep.
And most people don't know it was designed by 2 guys in Cairo who were tired of being late for work. And they went and found international financing to develop it, and now I think Google owns it. So what we did was we took the value proposition and we applied it to Waze.
Ways, yeah.
Okay, so if you look at it, what do? Well, they help you navigate any place. I mean, the first time I came to this area here, I was looking for hinges for a company down the street. I use Waze to get here, navigate anywhere. It helps you beat traffic.
Yeah.
Going to New York, if you cross over into Rye, New York, and there's a backup on the Hutchinson Parkway, it'll tell you, here's an alternate route.
Get off the highway and go this way.
Right. It helps you find attractions, where the next coffee shop is, or where the next hamburger shop. Can you go back?
Going to Gettysburg next Thursday, Waze.
Right. It gives you warnings. The police up ahead, one lane up ahead, and it's relevant to drivers.
Get off this exit, take route such and such instead.
And the most important value proposition, it's satisfying.
Right.
You're not going to get lost.
Right.
How many times did you sit in the back seat and your father said, I don't need a map, I don't need directions?
And my mother's going, yes, you do, dear.
Yes, you do.
No, I'll get us there in 2.5 hours
So this
later.
is an example of a value proposition.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good one.
And your next slide, for whom are we creating value?
Okay, these are your customer segments. And this is the question you're going to ask is, who are you trying to reach? Who has the need? Who are you creating this value for?
Who your target or targets?
Right. Who's your target market?
Right.
Do they exist?
Also, how do you know that?
Right. And
Validation.
right, validating that there are people out there.
That's your target market. How do you know that? Tell me how you know that. How did you figure that out?
You go out and research it. You go out and find out, are there people that have a need?
Go ask them.
Right. You go ask them. And there may be more than one target market.
That's right.
I mean, you may have more than one. In our business, some of our part of our target market were exhibition organizers. Some of them were exhibit managers.
Right.
Some of them were VPs of sales and marketing, depending on what we were offering.
And
So after you've decided the value proposition, knowing your customers.
We've got to cut off this episode and prepare for the next one. We'll have a second episode to follow on with Mark on the business model canvas. Thank you for watching the Fox Robbins Business Show. Feel free to send us any comments that you might have to foxrobbins@gmail.com. Keep it clean and healthy, and let us know what you're thinking. Thank you, and we'll see you guys next time.